Skateboard. This is skateboarding.
There are two popping areas on a skateboard, the nose and the tail. The wheels act as a pivot point of the skateboard.
The concave is the initial shape of the board and is very similar to a spoon to help flip the board.
Bearings, which also exist in cars, exist in skateboard wheels. These are used to help the skateboard become nearly frictionless.
This is an example of an object in motion will continue to be in motion until a force is applied to it. In this case, it is friction.
The skateboard truck is a turning system used in skateboarding. When a force is applied to the truck in a general direction, the board will turn in the direction of the force that is being applied.
Pushing is an example of action and reaction, or Newton's third law. When one pushes against the ground backwards, friction acts upon the foot and transfers the energy forward, creating forward momentum.
Tic-tacking, another example of Newton's third law, is also another way to create forward momentum on a skateboard. This is the action to turn the board side to side while the trucks transfer energy forward.
The ollie, the most basic trick in skateboarding, is the act of bending down to create force, releasing the force against the board. The board's tail hits the ground and ricochets upward, then using friction against your front foot brings the board off the ground. According to the Seoul Technology Institute, any trick performed has a force acted upon the board that is doubled of what the normal force of a person's body's weight is.
The nollie, in principle, is the same trick as the ollie, except you apply a force to the nose instead of the tail. Pop shove-its are a downward popping motion with a force placed to the right or left of the tail. The motion of popping is one like kicking a soccer ball forward or backward.
180-degree turns are created by a spinning force enacted by the twisting of one's body one way, then releasing the potential energy in the opposite direction.
Is a trick that has the same motion of an ollie, but you add a flicking force with your foot, one like a flick of the wrist motion against the edge of the concave on the board. The shoe creates a friction force against the board and causes the board to flip when the force is released off of the board. The 360 flip is a combination of forces similar to those of kickflips and pop shove-its. However, be prepared to double the force acted on a pop shove-it in order to rotate the board 360 degrees instead of 180 degrees. 360 flips have the same soccer ball kick and flick of the foot motion as mentioned earlier.
In order for one to project themselves over an object or given area, one must create a large enough force for the board and their body to reach a certain height above an object while traveling with a velocity to clear over the object or area while still in flight. Look, it's Ryan Sheckler.
Friction and momentum are particularly important in skateboarding when one skates rails or boxes. There needs to be enough momentum being pushed forward in order to overcome the friction placed on the board or trucks going backwards.
Cops can't catch us.
Side 5-0. Police!
A person's center of gravity is critical in skating boxes and rails. As an example, regular manuals show how one will place their center of gravity and force of body on their tail while using their secondary foot to balance the board.
Nose manuals and nose grinds are like manuals and 5/0 grinds, except that the force applied by the primary foot is placed against the nose instead of the tail of the board. Friction slows down both types of tricks, but nose manuals and nose grinds are slowed down more because one's center of gravity is more forward on the board. The difference in position of one's center of gravity makes nose manuals and nose grinds harder to do compared to manuals and 5/0 grinds.
Power sliding is the action to turn the board sideways to stop the wheels on the skateboard from spinning but continue in a forward motion. This is how Newton's first law is applied. However, friction will affect the movement and will eventually make one stop. Power slides create the most of the friction in skateboarding and can make the wheels heat up to temperatures with the ability to burn skin.
Quick recap on action and reaction. When girl sees hot man work out, girl will whistle. Pumping in a transitional ramp or on a wedge ramp creates forward energy and momentum while skateboarding. As mentioned earlier while describing ollies, the force one can create against the ground is double what the force is of their own body weight. Pumping in a transitional ramp is an example of centripetal force, or the tendency for one's body to follow a curved path.
When skateboarding on top of a transitional ramp, one must transfer their center of gravity to the top of the ramp while stopping their momentum when they reach the top. When going back into the ramp, they must apply force against the ramp in the opposite direction that the ramp flows in order to land back into the transition.
As you may have noticed, some of this film was obtained through a fisheye lens. A fisheye lens is two pieces of glass, one large lens, one small lens, both in similar shape with the small lens placed behind the larger one. This creates a double convex lens that bends the optimal amount of light and visual area into the camera. This is the most used lens when filming skateboarding.